Am I the asshole for calling out my husband's coworker's wife for trying to flush a maxi pad down our toilet? I'm still pretty mad at the whole ordeal. My hubsand's coworker and his wife are both mad at us, and think I humiliated her, but I think her lack of common sense is what did it. And #X200B. My husband and I recently hosted a cookout at our house for his coworkers. He gets along pretty well with most of them and enjoys hosting. Coworker's wife Julia goes to the hallway bathroom, comes back. I end up going after her, and notice the toilet is clogged and starting to overflow. Something large and white is stuck. I use the plunger to unclog it and lo and behold, a very large bloody maxi pad. Julia was the last person to use the bathroom, so I come out and asked her if she tried to flush a pad down the toilet. She got embarrassed and said yes, and I told her she needed to go clean up the mess she made. There was water all over the floor, with particles of her pad and blood everywhere. I asked her if no one ever taught her not to flush a pad. We have a septic tank and they cost thousands to repair. You don't flush pads, especially not the extra large ones. It's not like she tried to flush a panty liner or something. And #X200B. Julia cried and her husband yelled at me, but who does that? Especially at someone else's house? Husband's 2 female coworkers came to my defense, and pretty much said it was stupid of her to do that. Julia half-assed cleaning up her mess, and her husband quickly left. All of their coworkers think Julia shouldn't have done that, but my husband and his coworker are having a whole feud about it. Am I the asshole for calling out my husband's coworker's wife for trying to flush a maxi pad down our toilet? And #X200B. Edit. We have a septic tank. Septic tank repairs here can easily go for around $10,000. Julia has a septic tank. Julia knows better. When I asked if she would flush a pad in her own home, she said no. Julia said she did it because there was no trash can in there, and she didn't want to walk her pad to a different trash can. The trash can from that bathroom was outside being washed because a different coworker got vomit on it. I don't think saving her some embarrassment would be worth paying thousands of dollars to repair. Also, she saw that the toilet was clogged and decided to walk off and leave it for someone else. Not the asshole. She literally flooded your bathroom. Potentially could have cost you $10,000 in damages. Then left it for you to clean up after she obviously clogged the toilet. Who does that? The YTA responses are kinda unfair in my opinion. Would people seriously not confront someone who did something so disrespectful in your home? I understand the confrontation was humiliating for her and maybe you could have had the conversation privately, but I would be damned if I cleaned up somebody's bloody pad and dirty toilet water because they didn't want to simply walk to a different bathroom with a trash can. She embarrassed herself. Edit typos. Am I the asshole for moving out because I don't want to help my boyfriend out with the rent? My boyfriend, 26M, and I, 24F, have been together for 3 years. We live in NYC and he makes over $200,000 per year, while I'm studying for my master's in social work and have no income. Right now I'm doing an unpaid, year-long internship 3 days per week, as well as classes 2 days per week. It's rare to get a paid internship in social work, plus internships are mandatory. I spend 12 hours every day either working, studying, commuting, or in class. My only free days are on weekends, so I have no time for a paid job. My mom helps me financially by paying for my MetroCard and healthcare expenses, but everything else I rely on loans. Before I moved in with my boyfriend there was a roach infestation in my apartment, so I'd stay over at his place a lot. My lease was ending soon, so he asked me if I wanted to live with him. At first I joked with him that his living standards would go down since I can't afford a nice place, but he insisted on paying the rent until I finish grad school, then we would split the rent based on income. I originally wanted to live in a cheaper place in Queens or Brooklyn, but my boyfriend likes his current place and insisted I move in since he would be the one paying the rent. So I moved into his $5,000 per month luxury condo in the city this August. All of a sudden my boyfriend recently started asking me to pay half the rent, $2,500 per month. I was confused because he was the one who wanted to pay the rent in full. Apparently he was talking to his friends and they all think it's weird that I don't pay rent and that I was a gold digger. I let my boyfriend know that I can't afford $2,500 per month and he said I was leeching off of him, so I told him that he should find someone within his social class so he doesn't have to worry about a gold digger like me leeching off of him. I stayed at my friend's place for a few days while figuring out what to do. I called my mom about my situation and she is willing to help me out, but the maximum she can afford for rent is $800. I found some places in Queens within the price range, less than 15 minutes away from the city and a bus ride away from my school, so I went to check them out a couple days ago. I've been texting the landlord and my new roommates and I already signed the lease. I told my boyfriend about my new place and he got upset and asked me to stay. He said that he was willing to accept $800 per month instead of $2,500 per month if that's all I can afford, but I told him I don't want him changing his mind again and demanding more money from me in the future. He lived in this condo alone for several years, so it's not like he can't afford to live there without my help. I wouldn't mind splitting rent with him, but I would have to live in a more affordable place outside of Manhattan like I originally wanted. Apparently some of our mutual friends think I'm being unreasonable for moving out instead of talking to him and staying by paying the amount I can afford in rent, and that I shouldn't have let him pay my portion of the rent. Update. Yes, I did dump him. I blocked him and his idiot friends on everything. My friends also blocked him since he tried to contact me through them. I'm going to enjoy being single and never relying on a man financially ever again. Not the asshole. They think you're being unreasonable? That's Rich. He literally convinced you to move into his apartment, turning down your offers to find a cheaper place so you could contribute. The fact that his friends see you as a gold digger and don't appear to know the full story. The fact that you offered to pay and to find a cheaper place and he insisted otherwise, is also a red flag to me and makes me question how he talks about you to his friends. Definitely not the asshole, and I would question why you would want to date someone who is so easily influenced by his friends' uninformed opinions of you. Not the asshole. This should be a time for you to reevaluate whether you even want to be with this dude. He's easily manipulated by his friends and goes back on his word pretty quickly. Am I the asshole for saying I don't want to be in pictures at my wedding, as the bride? My fiancé's family never held back on jabs about my nose. My fiancé said he knew they really loved me the moment they started with the jokes. They're the kind of family that loves to make fun of each other. My grandparents used to make comments about my nose that were kind of shitty, especially because my dad is Jewish, although I've never known him, and I got the nose from him. In general, I've tried to not be sensitive about it because they don't like sensitive people, although my history with it and knowing my nose came from my dad, who I don't know, made it a bit harder for me. My fiancé made this comment once, which was supposed to be joking, sweet, where he basically said he was so lucky for my nose because it was the only way he had a chance with me. That comment stayed in my head since, the idea that I'd actually be beautiful if it wasn't for my nose. I've had really bad self-esteem and would go in and out of believing I'm ugly. I started thinking about having a nose job. After we got engaged, I realized if I was going to do it, I should do it before the wedding. He was really supportive of the idea and excited for it. He made some comments about being glad I was losing the beak, something he'd never expressed before I suggested it, which confirmed to me that I needed it. My fiancé loves my new nose. I hate it so much. I feel like I'm staring at someone else's face. I look like any other woman in the world besides myself. I've always struggled with depression, and I was finally in a good place before this. Now I can barely get myself to leave my room for work. My fiancé is really frustrated with me. He thinks I, objectively, look better and I need to get used to it. I know I'll have to, but I've been wearing a medical mask in the house because I can't stand to look at my face. He says this is me sulking like a toddler, but I can't control how I feel. He asked what I was going to do for our wedding and I told him that I don't want to be in any pictures. He freaked out, saying my selfishness was going to get in the way of us having a happy wedding. I didn't want to let this hurt him, so I tried to come up with options like wearing my veil covering my face in the pictures, incorporating a scarf into the outfit, wearing my mask, etc. And he said if I do any of that we might as well not get married at all. That hurt a lot. I can't stand to see myself in pictures like this, and having everybody see my nose the whole day would make this even worse for me. I'm already going to be blaming myself for the fact that I won't have my nose in pictures. I feel like I'm ruining the day for him, but what he wants will ruin it for me. Am I the asshole? Edit. I thought I would add a comment I wrote to the post since I've seen a lot of people are very worried about me. Thank you to everyone who's written comments trying to help me. Sorry I haven't responded to a lot of specific people. It's a little bit overwhelming, but I'm reading everyone's comments. Thank you so much to everyone who's given a judgment and advice. Everyone has been so kind to me at my lowest right now. I really need to get back into therapy. I'm trying to look into getting another nose job to reverse this, but I don't know if any plastic surgeon would be able to give me the beak back, and I'm terrified of getting surgery again. I just want to feel comfortable in my skin again. As much as I know logically I should be able to get used to this over time, I really don't feel I can. Everybody is suggesting we should postpone the wedding, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know how my fiancé is going to feel about that. I love him, but a lot of these comments are making me think more deeply into how he treats me. He's this very sweet guy normally. Introverted, very smart, always there when I need him, etc. But he's not being that guy right now. Not the asshole at all, but your fiancé is. His comment about the beak was stone cold cruel. His remark about your nose being the only way he'd have a chance with you is telling. He is superficial and shallow and inconsiderate, and I really hope you realize you deserve much better before the wedding rolls around. This is not for Reddit. Please talk to a mental health professional. You should not be considering marriage if you feel this badly about yourself. Not the asshole, you need to get professional mental help before this goes any further. You should postpone the wedding. You altered your face to appease your new husband. This marriage is doomed to fail. Not the asshole, but get an annulment, if you've already had the wedding. Am I the asshole for not letting my brother-in-law eat my dog food? So my sister and her husband are living with me temporarily because of Hurricane Ian. Their home in Fort Myers is in bad shape. So I agreed to let them stay with me and my dogs. I own a nice bungalow and it's just me and my dogs. It's a little crowded, but I can deal. I have a couple of little dogs and I like to make them raw food. It's healthy for them and I like knowing what they are eating. I use cheap ground meat and I mix in chopped up vegetables, seeds, and organ meat. Also I mix in their doggy vitamins. I make up big batches whenever I find ground meat at a good price. Then I make patties out of the mix and freeze them. At night I take out a couple of patties and leave them in the fridge to thaw out for the next day's food. When I was out yesterday, my brother-in-law saw the hamburgers in my fridge and decided to grill them up and eat them. When I got home I went to feed my dogs, but the food was obviously not there. So I asked my sister if she had fed my dogs while I was out. She said that her husband had eaten the burgers in the fridge. I kind of giggled and said, "Oops, I guess I need to thaw more out." He heard me and said that they tasted off anyway. I told him the reason they tasted off is because they were dog food. He started dry heaving and saying he was going to puke. He yelled at me for keeping dog food around people food. I yelled back that he is a guest and while he is welcome to anything in the house, perhaps it would be best if he asked before he ate my food. Him and my sister are angry at me that I didn't label my dog food. I am kind of angry that he complained. Yes, I would be a little grossed out too, but it's just funny. He isn't hurt or anything. There is nothing that isn't edible by humans in the food I make. I would not eat it myself, of course. AITA. Edit. Dang that title. Please ignore the word not. Edit. Part of the reason he is angry is because he says I took it lightly. All I did was joke that he would have a nice shiny coat. I'd lean toward not the asshole, because if I saw newly thawed patties in someone's fridge, I'd assume it was their dinner plan for themselves and I wouldn't touch it. So to me this is kinda what he gets for eating what anyone would assume was your dinner. Not the asshole. If I saw meat patties thawing in someone's fridge, I would assume they had set them aside for their dinner. I wouldn't just grill them up without asking. Not the asshole, but even if you have a "you can eat whatever" policy, I would never just grill up obviously prepped burger patties from my host's fridge. That's impolite to me because someone, WHO is not you, prepped them and meant to eat them and then you just come in and decide to grill them up without asking? It's just rude. But the fact that it was meant for the dogs is hilarious and should be a lesson learned, lol.